Hi there. I want to talk about what does it mean to have your mind darkened, or what is more specifically, what does the Bible mean when it says that uh, their minds have been darkened? So there's two verses that I want to refer to. The first one is in the book of Romans. It's Romans chapter 1, and I'll just read a bit of it starting in verse 18. Actually, I'll start reading in verse 20. It says, "For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived um, ever since the creation of the world and the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. Although they knew God, although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened." So they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. So that's Romans chapter 1. And then the second verse is actually in Ephesians 4:18, and it says, "They are darkened in their understanding, alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to their hardening of the heart. They have become callous and have given themselves up to sensuality, greedy to practice every kind of impurity. But that is not the way you learned Christ, assuming that you have heard about him and were taught in him as the truth is in Jesus." So what happens is, as a result of God's judgment on our sin, for unbelievers, their hearts become darkened, or their minds become darkened, and they become alienated from God. So, in other words, it's a judicial judgment, it's a judicial pronouncement on them, it's a judgment upon them. So basically in Ephesians 4:18 it says, not only are they darkened in their understanding, so that's their mind. So like if you can think about your reasoning abilities and your ability to solve problems, it becomes darkened. And it actually says in Ephesians 4:18 again, it says that that they are darkened in their understanding, alienated from the life of God. So they're separated from God because of the darkening of their mind. So when your mind becomes darkened, you're separated from the life of God. If you turn to the book of Romans, the book of Romans talks about the wrath of God. And so this is Romans chapter 1, verse 18. It says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth." So what happens first is that people deny the existence of God. So they're suppressing the truth of God. That's what it means. It means that it says, for what can be known about God is plain to them. So God hasn't hidden his existence from human beings. In Romans it says it's plain to them because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. So God says, I've made myself known throughout creation. I've made myself known as one of the ways is through creation of the world. So they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him. They became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things. So back to Ephesians 4:18, talking about people who don't know Christ or don't know God, saying that they are darkened in their understanding. So as a form of God's wrath, because they've suppressed the truth, their understanding is darkened and they become separated and alienated from God. So there is hope for people who don't want to be separated and alienated from God. And that hope comes from having faith in God and putting your trust and your faith in God through Jesus Christ. Anyways, thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.